But then you also have the big stores. Like there was a report that came out that Dior, for a Dior bag, it cost $5 to make a Dior bag, and they're made in South Asia as well. So how do we reconcile that? With, if H&M, Shein, we can buy from them, great. And then we're looking at the high value, brands, and we're hearing reports that they are also participating in these kind of labor, scam. I'm going to call it a scam. Uh, how do we reconcile that as consumers?
I mean, Bernard Arnault at one point was the richest person in the world. You don't become the richest person in the world by paying everybody what they deserve. You
Yeah,
hoard money. If you're the
exactly.
richest person in the world, you're hoarding money. You're hoarding money and
Yeah.
you're not paying full price for anything, right? I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
just basic common sense to see that. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
big thing. So, I did not see that report about Dior making, legitimately making handbags in Asia for $5, but I did see the reports about them making them for $50 in Italy using Chinese labor that was in sweatshops in Italy. And they got in big trouble for that. And they got hauled into court and they paid a settlement fee and they bought their way out of it basically, which is really crummy.
Mm-hmm.
But they, all of this I already wrote about in my first book, Deluxe, in 2007, that luxury brands were producing in China. There was a major luxury brand, where the CEO told a conference in Hong Kong, and I was there, and had told the FT or some newspaper that day in an interview that they did not produce in China. They were starting to look at producing in China, but they weren't producing in China. Well, I had been in the factory the day before, and I saw them producing in China. And then there was another major luxury brand, European, that said that they would never produce in China, and I saw their stuff being made in China. And and I wrote all this in 2007. Like, it was not a big lift.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Hong Kong 24 hours, and I asked around, and suddenly I was visiting a factory in Shenzhen, and there were all these brands being made there. So, and they were absolutely legitimate. I mean, they weren't like
Mm-hmm.
copies or counterfeits. This was the real thing. So, I mean, the brand's been lying to consumers for ages. I mean, almost 20 years since I published it in a book, which means it was 25 years ago that I started reporting on it. And then, there's the sweatshops in Europe, which I wrote about in 2007 or 2008 in the New York Times, outside of Milan or outside of Florence, in the town of Prato. Everyone knows about this in the business. The whole town is Chinese. They have Chinese schools, Chinese restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
and they're being paid €2 an hour instead of €20 an hour. And all the companies source, not all of them, but a lot of companies source their stuff there, and everyone just turned a blind eye and said, well, okay, whatever. And then finally, the Italian government decided to crack down on it. But it took them 20 years to crack down on it, since I wrote about it in the New York Times on the op-ed page. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah. It seems almost like a mountain that it feels insurmountable to people who are trying to, because when money is involved, people just don't think straight anymore. When
Big
money
money,
is involved, they're not. Yeah.
big money makes you richer
Yeah.
than